Welcome to the Ripples of Perception series. I'm Lisa Hayes.
I'm Iva Nasr.
We're so excited you're here joining us because just as casting a pebble into a pond creates ripples, so do we as we go through life.
Please stay with us through the series as Lisa and myself, in each segment, share a variety of stories, downloads, and experiences that enrich our understanding of perception.
Are you ready to get started?
More than ready. Hello, Lisa.
Hey, Iva.
Here we are again. I am so happy to get used to sitting at this table with you and having these just very special conversations. And lately, in the last few days, for some reason, there's been a concentration of flashbacks and memories for me of unusual healings that we experience in different states of awareness, we being the proverbial we, but I know that you and I have shared so many stories to reinforce this state of consciousness that gives us so many amazing and magical options for healing. So, one thing that was on my mind this morning, some months ago, a number of months ago, I was winding down, reading in bed, about to turn the light off. And I just had a thought of a friend of mine, and she's friend for life. I mean, we're very connected, yet not in touch on such a regular basis. So it caught my attention that she came to mind. And I just noted that maybe the next day I'll drop her a text. And that was it. There wasn't more. I didn't read into it. I didn't pick up on anything else. She just came to mind. I sent this like wink and smile to her from a distance and noted to be in touch the next day. The next day, she sends me a text and she says, Iva, did you deliberately come into my dream last night? And I texted back, no. Why? Because you were on my mind. She said, well, before I went to sleep, I had this horrendous, blinding headache. I was in so much discomfort and pain, and I just went to sleep. She wasn't even thinking about me. And in her sleep, I came into her dream and I placed my hands on her eyes, and her headache lifted, not just in the dream, but she woke up as a consequence of that and realized her headache was completely gone. So I don't want to embellish much more. It's a darn good example, though, of what I mean about unusual healings in a certain state of awareness or unawareness in that context. So anyway.
Wow. This is interesting because we talked before this segment, and I was going to share something that happened 5 years ago in New York about this mother-daughter team and my being able to facilitate their getting rid of the daughter's migraine headache. However, I'm just going to skip that because this is what came to me to share. As I was in my bedroom with my husband at the time, it was about 9:30 at night. He's watching TV and I'm reading a book. A surge of energy came over me, and it was let's see, my daughter is 36 now. She was 18 at the time, so you guys can do the math. And I was taken aback by this energy that it was like a wave. Oh my gosh, my daughter's in trouble. or she's going to be in trouble. She was down in the Dominican Republic for spring break with a friend. And back then, there were no cell phones to get in contact with her across the ocean like that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could do was get in touch with my guardian angel, who I'd recently gotten in touch with vis-a-vis my aunt's advice. And I also had previously to this night asked what my daughter's guardian angel's name was. So I said, Gracie, my guardian angel. And I'm saying this all to myself because my husband at the time was watching TV and oblivious to all this. I know something's up with my daughter, Caitlin, and there's nothing I can do, 2,000 miles away or whatever, how far that is. But I know you can help. Will you work with her guardian angel, Melissa? And the two of you team up. And I'm just getting chills talking about it. Chills came over me. And all of a sudden, a wave of peace came into my awareness and through my body. And I knew all was well. And I was able to go to sleep and was fine. So I was thinking about it the next day, and I thought, I guess, that was just my imagination, nothing, And then she calls me on the phone. It's a Wednesday in the middle of the week, long distance. Caitlin, hi, Mom. And I thought, okay, she's alive. She sounds okay. And I'm okay. I'm like, okay. I was in an accident last night.
Oh, no.
It was raining and I was on a moped with another guy. I was on the back and my friend was in a car behind us, and it was around midnight and the streets were wet from a previous rain, and we skidded and we both flew off the bike. However, he skidded in a little bit less of a skid or whatever, flew off a little bit less or something and got into the grass, and I skidded on the pavement. My friend behind me, I later found out from her, she thought Caitlin had seriously injured herself and was really frightened. All that happened was Caitlin had a skinned up elbow and a skinned up knee, and was only had to rest one day.
Wow.
I knew at that moment there was divine intervention. I knew it because Corey, her friend who was in the car right behind them, she just thought it was disaster. She, by the look of it, she didn't know how Caitlin came out of it like that.
So I have chills now too. I had completely forgotten. I think you told me this story once quite a long time ago. What a perfect example of our ability to listen and to abide by a feeling, even if it seems ridiculous, or you might feel like it just came from your imagination or paranoia or who knows what. And you just went ahead and recruited assistance. And that recruitment, my feeling is, satisfied you enough that you did something about this very unsettling feeling that something was wrong with your daughter. And you had nothing else to go by, so you had to let it go. And getting out of the way, or not being in the way in the first place, seems to be a common thread to facilitating these experiences. Like with my little story that I just shared, I was so out of the way. First of all, it was just a seemingly random thought about a friend. Although anytime anything comes to me, I know that there's some purpose. So it's not random with oblivion. So my response to it was noticing it.
Mm-hmm.
And ingrained in me now in moments like that is my whole being responds to an invitation. I don't have to analyze it. I don't have to question it. So I must have just availed myself.
I think you did.
But I didn't know, had no idea that it would translate. And for some reason, the way she was able to receive it, and by virtue of being ready to go to bed, was in a dream state. And then here you are sharing this just amazing story.
Was a prophetic vision of danger. I didn't have the exact understanding of what danger she was going to be in, yet I felt it hadn't happened yet. And I called on my guardian angel to work with her guardian angel to facilitate the lessening of the impact, whatever it was going to be. So it, in a sense, was preventing a bad injury. So in that way, to me, that's a different kind of healing.
Absolutely.
Preventing.
Absolutely. Preventing, redirecting, lessening the intensity. Right. I mean, just all of that. So most definitely.
Funny thing is, the reason why I guess it just came into my mind, my daughter and I were just talking about that. I relayed the story to her. I said, do I have this right? She said, you have it exactly right. She said, that's exactly how it went down.
And that's actually a really good point. And you know me, sometimes I will take the temptation to bring up a new topic while we're in the middle of one. But just to be noted, Lisa, that this question you asked your daughter, like, did I get it right? Is this how it went down? You're basically double checking that your perceptions and the way you remember something matches at least how the other person involved in this situation, your daughter. You know, when I was writing my book, my memoir, and as I was writing and remembering and stories from childhood, and I would read them out loud along the way to my parents. You know, my dad was still with us, rest his soul. And I would sometimes say, like in stories that had to do with them, I would sometimes say, is this what happened? You know, am I remembering it correctly? So please help me note this for another conversation, because there's a lot more you and I can say on this. Exactly. It's very important though. And mentioning it now does apply. Like, I'm joking that I'm getting off topic. However, it does apply because alignment in these moments that we're talking about, what we're calling unusual healings in different states of awareness, there has to be an accuracy. And it means that you were, in the example you just shared, when you felt this trepidation and that there was something wrong, you were elevated enough and open enough in a refined way to be accurate in the process. So anyway, I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but it is part of the dynamic. And with me and my little story with my friend and her headache, I also was aligned enough, clean, as you often say, in my mind, body, spirit, clean and clear enough that all I needed is a suggestion in my awareness of her. And then something else takes over.
So I think the similarity between the two stories is your heart connection, if you want to just put it that way, and her heart connection collided.
And they were pure merged, and true. And they were pure and true.
You guys were totally connected. It parlayed into the healing in the dream. Caitlin and I were connected ahead of the game, and it parlayed into angelic divine intervention.
Exactly. because we're not going to break down now in this conversation how are these things possible, how are the different ways to invoke different channels, because remote healing, at least in the progressive paradigm of healing, is a very well established process and paradigm where you can actively follow certain steps and train a way of showing up for remote healings. So that really is now a different conversation. It fits in unusual healings as an example, but it's a lot more deliberate. What you and I are talking about today with our stories is enough intention and presence based on an established pure channel of connection,
And to get out of the way.
and to get out of the
As
way.
you suggested.
Yes.
And allow the natural universal energetics to play out in our highest and best good.
Exactly. So I can give another example if yeah, I think let's tell me if this fits, okay? Because we talked about it earlier. And you and I have mentioned some variations of maybe some stories that come up in these segments with ripples of perception in our other series. However, elaborating on the same examples is always welcome, because we will, even as the storytellers of those experiences, see and learn more about them anyway. So I know I've told you about the experience I had with one of my plants once. So happens to be another example of a dream state.
It was a fern,
It
right?
wasn't a fern.
It wasn't a fern?
No, it wasn't
Okay.
a fern. It was.
Maybe I'm biased because I'm looking at my
You
fern.
are, and you made me look at the fern right in front of me
Yeah,
too.
true.
So it makes me wonder what's going to happen with these ferns
Yeah.
after this
Yeah,
conversation.
It's artificial, so I don't.
Well, artificial in that realm we're talking about means nothing.
It could melt.
So anyway, to be
Yeah,
noted.
to be
You
done.
bring me and the listeners an update next time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what happens. So this plant was more in the family of rubber plant, like just a little bit more like that. Anyway, I had this plant for a while. It was doing pretty well. I tend to take care of my plants, and anyway, I noticed that all of a sudden it was just not doing well at all, like significant, not just not as good as it was the day before, but just almost dramatically just wilting. And I'm like, wow, are the roots so big in the pot? Is it time to transplant it? What did I give it something? Was there something in the water? I mean, it was that distinct of a change. So I, once again, noted, I checked to make sure it was moist enough and thought there's not much I can do now. It was before bed. I wanted to tend to it in daylight, but I just put intention toward it, like even blew it a little kiss. I do that. I blow kisses to everything and everyone. But it was this like, oh, I'm sorry. I will take care of you. I wonder what's going on. So again, it was a little bit of that awareness, but not much more than that. Made sure it was moist enough and went to sleep. I didn't go to sleep with an active intention to do something with it in the dream. Okay. However, whatever got started in that dialogue with the plant before going to sleep translated into a dream I had where it was just such a I'm in it now. That's why I'm slowing down a little bit. It transports me every time I think of what happened. I'm in the dream in this room. It felt like the same room where the plant actually was. However, like there was this golden, almost like orange like hue in the room. All of a sudden, the plant and I were in this vacuous space. And I'm sitting on the floor, cross-legged in front of it. And we are having what felt like in the dream just a telepathic conversation. In the dream, I wasn't talking out loud. It was my mind's eye with the plant, and we were just conversing. And then I started noticing that if I swayed a little bit to the right, the plant in the dream swayed to the right. And then if I went left, it went left. And then all of a sudden, it's like we're doing this little dance together. We were communicating through that synchronized movement. That was it. I woke up the next morning and the plant was completely revitalized. Not only revitalized, there were few new leaves on some of the stems that were not there the night before. It was as if we skipped days of time and space into a linear moment that was just mere few hours of being asleep. There's so much more I can say about this, Lisa. What I have shared, though, is enough to give another example. An unusual transformation completely blew my mind, yet brought home so much confirmation to principles and understandings that I was living at that point in my life, but never would have ever translated that knowledge to this kind of intention.
Wow. This ancient wisdom that the Buddhists had thousands of years ago, the ancient medicine, energetic, the connection, heart to heart, a plant's heart, your heart, my heart with my daughter's heart, your heart with your friend's heart. There's something to it. And the ancient cultures called it like an electrical light. And it literally, when you feel it in your body, it's like a pleasant feeling, yet it does feel somewhat like, not like you touched an open electrical socket, but it's electrical. And so whether we feel that or not, there's this wave of energy that is in the field. And when we utilize it by connecting with others, plants, animals, people, miracles happen and unusual healings happen in these altered states and these different states of awareness of this energy. They have these people that have been passed down through the ages called Sifus, S-I-F-U, these masters who, when they touch you, they can send an electrical feeling through your body that opens up the channels and meridians in your body. So if you have something blocked in your kidney or whatever, what happened with the plant, Iva, had to be something similar, because there's no assurance that even with a plant guide, you would have ever restored it to the luster that it had the next morning.
And at least in that amount of time.
I mean, or maybe never. I mean,
exactly.
It might have been terminally ill.
That's what I'm saying. At the least, it was not possible in that no guidebook, I guarantee you, would say use this protocol, and within.
And the golden light, oh, it just gives me chills now. I've seen the golden light in my internal, in my third eye, in my head. It's just amazing what this golden light is.
It's and now I'm remembering other moments where that showed up as well. So we are open and aware of these possibilities. And my wish has been for a long time, and magnified, multiplied right now as we speak, brings tears to my eyes. It's such a sincere wish that more of us open up and allow for these possibilities. Anytime this is a good idea, but especially right now when we as a collective are living this fine line of ascension and progress and more peace and some destruction and chaos. And there's so much concern in people's lives. I'm not saying the concern is predominant for everyone by any means. It's around us though, and how fun and how fun and how vital would it be that we invite this lightness of being and open up to these possibilities, at least to acknowledge that they exist, even if they don't make any sense or seem so far away from what most conventional ways of healing and transformation are, right?
Yeah, and many of us aren't going to believe this unless we have experienced it firsthand. So I'll just very briefly share one more story for those that might be a little skeptical at this point, like, oh, you guys, really? And that is in the presence of about 15 people 5 years ago on the mountain.
Oh, my favorite
Mount
story.
Shasta
Yes.
At Red Fir Flat. One of the gals who happened to be from Australia and lived in Bali at the time, she was an energy facilitator worker too. She burned her finger on the fire that we were cooking our food on. And she had a little blue, she makeshifted some kind of Band-Aid thing. I don't know where she found it, some kind of little blue cloth tied around it. I said, Christina, what is going on with your finger? Oh, I'm in excruciating pain. I don't really want to make a big issue of it. I haven't told anybody, but I'm in excruciating pain. I said, let me see it. She took it off and the blister was like 1/2 inch high.
Oh,
and blisters can be painful.
Ooh, yeah.
I said, hey, do you want to co-facilitate a healing? Well, yeah, let's do it. So we held hands. I was mindful of her finger. And I said, I downloaded this protocol. This was about 5 years ago. I downloaded this protocol a couple months ago, Christina. And do you want to try it? She said, yeah. So I said, okay. So the finger that's hurt is, I'd have to go back to my notes, but I think it was the middle finger of her left hand. I said, so how does your middle finger of your right hand feel? Perfect. I said, okay. So we're going to visualize energy coming from your right hand middle finger into your left hand middle finger. As we're letting the energy surge through us, we're going to do an imprint and visualize that your left hand middle finger is perfect, just like your right hand middle finger. We only did it for like 30 seconds. We were holding hands and the energy surging through me, the electrical current was like none other. It felt so good. Must be similar to what these seafood guys do. It was ecstatic feeling. And so I knew it was fine after 30 seconds. And I dropped my hands and she looked at me. I said, I don't think you need that bandage anymore. And she said, I don't feel a thing. She took her bandage off and it was like several days had passed. It was like a callus now. There was no, I mean, it didn't even, it was completely healed really, except for like a little callus. And she said, I have never felt so much energy go through me before. She said, that was amazing. So she sat down and 15 minutes later, she called me over and it was hardly even noticeable. There was hardly anything there.
Amazing.
How do you explain these things?
Don't tempt me to even try right now. There are no words. There are no words.
Let's just wrap up with that because we've gone a little over what we'd like. And note here, listeners, that unusual healings in different states of awareness is possible with humans, plants, and we haven't discussed animals. We have stories on that.
That's going to be a series of at least 4 segments, at least.
So with that, yay, let's just let the electrical current of the golden and white light is also
Yes.
important, run through us through the merry holidays.
And it's an impartial, all-inclusive, non-denominational
Exactly.
energy and wave of light that is accessible to anyone and everyone. So well wishes, and may wellness and love prevail. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Iva.